Are you going to sell me like Papa? The tiny alien girl asked, and the human broke into tears. The storm had ended, but the scars it left across the valley still smoked. Craters glowed faintly where plasma fire had struck, and fragments of broken ships littered the ground like the bones of some ancient beast. Ethan trudged through the wreckage, his boots crunching glass and ash. He wasn't a scavenger by choice, but the war had stripped Earth bare, and anything left behind could mean survival. He was searching for rations, tools, anything salvageable when a faint sound reached him. At first, he thought it was just the wind threading through the hulls of the ruined ships. But then he heard it again, a cough. Life. His pulse quickened as he lifted aside a panel of twisted metal. Beneath it, half buried in debris, was a tiny figure. She was no human child. Her skin glowed a muted lavender under the soot, and her enormous eyes, silver and liquid, blinked up at him in terror. She couldn't have been older than 7, if her species aged like his. Her thin limbs trembled as she tried to sit up, but her legs refused her. "Don't be afraid," Ethan said softly, crouching low so his shadow wouldn't loom over her. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her lips moved, her voice brittle and cracked. "Papa." Ethan shook his head gently. "No, little one. Just me. Your father." He stopped. The battlefield around them already told the truth. The girl's fingers clutched at his coat with surprising strength. "Are you going to sell me?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp, frightened, as if the question had lived inside her long before this moment. The words pierced him deeper than any shrapnel could. Sell her. Like a thing. Ethan's throat tightened. He had heard rumors. Children of alien prisoners sold in secret markets, their strange abilities paraded as weapons or curiosities. Some humans, broken by desperation, had turned to such cruelty. He shook his head violently. "No. No, I'd never." His voice cracked, and to his horror, tears began to spill down his face. The girl tilted her head, bewildered, her silver eyes glistening. "But Papa said humans trade everything. Even people," he said. "If he died, someone would sell me. Please don't." Ethan broke then, shoulders trembling. He pressed his palms to his eyes but couldn't stop the sobs. The war had already taken so much. His brother, his mother, the home he once knew. He had seen soldiers dragged, civilians caged, lives reduced to currency. And now this small voice, innocent, trembling, forced him to confront it all. "I won't sell you," he whispered fiercely. "I swear. You're safe with me." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then the girl let out a tiny breath and leaned against his chest. Her skin was cool, almost luminescent, and she smelled faintly of iron and rain. Ethan gathered her in his arms, careful not to jostle her too much, and carried her out of the wreckage. The days that followed were hard. Ethan found shelter in the ruins of an old farmhouse on the outskirts of the valley. The girl, whose name he learned was Lyra, was too weak to walk, her legs burned from shrapnel wounds. He scavenged bandages, water, dried food, anything to keep her alive. At night she would wake in fear, her small hand clutching his. "You won't sell me," she would whisper again and again. And every time Ethan would answer, "Never." Slowly, trust grew between them. Lyra began to speak more, sharing bits of her world. She told him of her father, a navigator who had promised her they'd return home once the fighting ended. She told him of her people's gardens that glowed with their own light, and of skies painted in endless shifting colors. Ethan listened, his heart breaking at the contrast between her memories and the bleak ruins surrounding them. Yet he also felt a fragile hope take root, something he hadn't allowed himself since before the war. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the shattered land, Lyra stirred beside him. "Why did you cry that day?" she asked softly, her voice stronger now. Ethan looked at her. The child's eyes were searching his, not with fear this time, but with a strange, solemn curiosity. "Because I was ashamed," he admitted. "Ashamed of what my kind has done. Ashamed that you even had to ask me if I'd sell you. No child should think that way." Lyra studied him for a long moment, then reached out and touched his cheek with her small hand. "Papa cried too. When he thought I was asleep. He said war makes monsters out of people. But he said, sometimes someone chooses not to be a monster. Maybe you are like that." Ethan closed his eyes, letting her words wash over him. A child, broken and alone, was offering him more grace than he felt he deserved. Weeks later, when rescue finally came, an alliance ship landing in the valley, Ethan knew what he had to do. He carried Lyra to the medics, his arms reluctant to let go. She clung to him until the very last, whispering into his ear, "Don't forget your promise. Don't let them make you a monster." Tears blurred his vision as he nodded. And as the ship lifted her into safety, Ethan stood rooted to the earth, the weight of her words anchoring him. He had sworn not to sell her, not to betray her trust. But what she had truly given him was far greater, a reason to believe that even in the ruins of war, humanity could still choose kindness. And for the first time in years, Ethan let himself hope. Weeks later, the distant hum of a rescue ship echoed across the scarred valley. Ethan carried Lyra in his arms, her tiny body still fragile but growing stronger each day. The medics of the Interstellar Alliance waited at the landing site, their equipment gleaming against the ashen ground. "Promise me," Lyra whispered, clutching his coat, "you won't become like them. Don't let the war turn you into a monster." Ethan's throat tightened. He had seen the worst of humanity, and the thought of betraying her trust made him shiver. "I promise," he said, voice breaking. "I'll never forget you, Lyra. I'll never sell you, and I'll never stop fighting to be better." The tiny alien's silver eyes softened, and she pressed her forehead against his shoulder. "Then you are like Papa," she murmured. "Someone who chooses kindness even when it's hard." Ethan held her a moment longer, tears slipping down his face. He felt the weight of the world lift slightly, not because the war was over, but because in saving her, he had reclaimed a part of himself he thought lost forever. When the medics gently took Lyra from his arms, she looked back at him and whispered, "Thank you." And as the ship lifted, vanishing into the horizon, Ethan stood in the valley's ruins, watching. He had sworn not to sell her, but in truth, she had given him something far more precious. Hope. A hope that even in a broken world, people could choose to protect, to care, and to love. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to believe that kindness could survive the darkest war, and that maybe, just maybe, humanity could too.